Venture Cafe Sydney, our Sydney team, and our amazing guests, Katarzyna Klimek from Warsaw, representing MOST Foundation, and Sachi from the Sydney side. Sachi is really experienced in working in international environments, so I think that you have a great experience and you can really compare some markets, some business opportunities. So today we will start this conversation, and we will continue that on Thursday during our international innovation bridge between Warsaw and Sydney. You can sign up for the event. You will find the link for registration in the comments. And now let's start the conversation. Nathan, Kasia, Sachi, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Of course. So I will start. I'm a woman. Okay, is this correct? So my name is Kasia. I operate MOST Foundation, as you told Eva. It's an organization which helps startups to grow on Polish markets. We do acceleration programs. We also connect with investors, and we do a lot of networking on in our country. And as Sachi knows, we are also ambassadors for World Summit Awards. It's a United Nations competition which is open right now, and it helps startups to grow with sustainable development goals. So it's really good idea to be there. Okay, that's for me.
Great, thank you. Sachi?
All right, I'm Sachi Wickramage, and I'm the co-founder, Chief Operating and Chief Product Officer of iForTrades. So iForTrades is a very innovative customer experience platform for the trade services and the real estate sector in Australia. And as Kasia said, I'm part of the World Summit Awards, representing WSA Australia as a national expert, as well as a part of the member of the grand jury. And my aim is to every year identify the best digital innovations from Australia and to take them to the global stage of the World Summit Awards within the context of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, as well as in the business process. And it's my pleasure to be joining this session today.
Great. Thank you, Sachi. And Nathan.
I'm back. Sorry, I had a little disconnection issue, but I made it. So thank you for bringing this together, Eva, and it's fantastic to have great representatives from both of our sides. So my name is Nathan Plummer. I'm from Venture Cafe Sydney. My role is Director of Corporate Innovation and Partnerships. We opened Australia's first Venture Cafe in February last year. So we've been operating for just over 12 months. And I'm so excited to be part of our growing global network, which since then includes Warsaw, and that's, I guess, brings us to really the topic of today. And we're so, excited to be building what we call our innovation bridge with our global innovation communities around the world. We primarily focus on the work we do in local communities, but increasingly, obviously, it's more important than ever to find ways to be able to connect those different communities around the world as well. So it's fantastic to be doing this with Venture Cafe Warsaw and also today. So thank you for bringing it together, Eva.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Nathan. You are right. It's important, especially now. Today we will talk about some business opportunities in both markets. So, Kasia, can you tell us about Polish market? What are business opportunities and what people who are planning expansion or starting business in Poland should know from your perspective?
Mm-hmm. Of course, Poland is a fast-growing country, and as we know, me and you, the ecosystem of opportunities to start business here in our country is really, really wide. We have a lot of instruments and a lot of organization which helps innovators to start in Poland. And according to the World Bank ranking, we are 24th as a Poland. We are rated as a 24th as a fast-growing country in the world, so it's really high. We have 14 special economic zones, 97 venture capitals, a lot of R&D centers, and more than 97, almost 100 VCs based in Poland. And as I count yesterday, it's 69 acceleration program right now open for startups, for innovators who want to try doing their business in Poland. So it's a lot of opportunities to start. And what's the most important is our innovating centers, just like this one when I'm based right now in. It's a Cambridge Innovation Center in Warsaw. It was open few weeks ago. Yes, it's brand new, but it connects a lot of organization, mentors, VCs, startups, whole ecosystem which you need to do your business. And we have these centers also in other cities like Krakow, Wrocław, Łódź, Tricity, Poznań. So it's only depend on you. If you want to come to Poland and start, just join Innovation Center and start chatting, and you can do your business really easy right now here.
Great, thank you. We will find out more on Thursday because we will talk about city ecosystem, business ecosystem, and startup ecosystem in both countries. We will have a chance to meet some institutions at info tables and some startups from both sides at demo tables. So if you have some specific questions, I'm really inviting you to join us on Thursday at 9 a.m. Warsaw time and 5 p.m. Sydney time. Now let's talk about Australian market because Sachi, you have really great experience not only on Australian market but all over the world. But based on that, can you tell what differentiate Australian market?
Yeah, sure. The first lesson actually is no two markets are the same. So Australia is a very unique market, and it's one of the most isolated countries from the rest of the world, mainly due to its geographical location. And it being such a gigantic country in size, being a continent on its own, it still has a very low population density. And if you look at the statistics based on the last figures, we only have a population of 25 million. And yet Australia is a very highly developed market economy, and it's the 13th largest global economy. And looking at the GDP, we have a very strong GDP of over $1.4 trillion. But as a result of our low population density, we have a very good GDP per capita of over $55,000. And in fact, I was looking at the Poland just to get a comparison picture. And in fact, Poland and Australia both in the similar GDP ballparks, having $1.4 and $1.3 trillion respectively. But the difference is in the GDP per capita. And that's proportionate for the to the population density difference of Australia having only 2/3 of the population of Poland. And talking about the population, Australia is one of the most diversified populations in the world as well. And to put things into perspective, if you look at Australian population, 1 in 4 Australian is born overseas. And that's very interesting. And this is mainly because of Australian population growth primarily being driven by the migrations. And another interesting fact is Australia is also one of the most urbanized populations in the world. And about 60% of the population living in top 4 cities like Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, and Adelaide. And in general, about 89% of the general population in Australia is living in any kind of urban area as well. And so it's a very interesting dynamics that we have in Australia. And if you look at all these factors into consideration, we can see that it's a very interesting market. And even though at first Australia looks like it's similar to any market which is speaking English in general, but it's very different at the same time, and very diverse and very unique. So there are a lot of factors to consider and in identifying the differences of Australian and the other markets.
Well, thank you for that. I think that it's really also really interesting that the business, like actually, like you mentioned, for main cities for business, but you didn't mention the capital of Australia. So it's yeah, also
the administrative capital is Canberra. But if you look at the startups, Canberra is mostly the administrative capital, where the startups are surrounding around Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, and Perth. So these are the hotspots.
Although there is a cluster of defence-related startups that are around Canberra and the state of let's call it Australian Capital Territory, because that's obviously where the government is, and you know, our government defence departments as well. But Sachi, I think you summed it up beautifully, and those are some fantastic stats. I think the other thing I would add is Australia's going through a really exciting transformation at the moment. You know, we had decades of unprecedented growth, really on the back of a resources boom. I mean, even as to recently, resources make up 60% of our exports. So, you know, that is currently changing. The kinds of resources that people are both demanding in global markets is changing, but also, you know, the kinds of resources that Australia itself wants to invest in is changing too. So there's this kind of transformation where it's a realization of what got us here won't get us there in the future. And it's this idea that there's this real excitement around innovation and entrepreneurship being the key, and it not necessarily going away from some of our prime industries. It's about looking at how do we innovate around some of those key industries. So when we talk about being leaders in resources, how do we then convert that to clean tech, for example, and looking at being leaders in renewable energy and the kinds of technologies associated with that, and the same with you know, our transportation and other areas which you know, Australia's predominantly relied on in the future, in the past, but now sees an opportunity to really expand upon. So I think that's the only thing I'd further add to that, Sachi, is that it's a really exciting time in terms of the business and startup space, in the sense that there's a lot of movement around the possibilities of you know, really growing and creating the future of what our economy will look like.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So those sectors that you mentioned are the fastest growing?
Well, I think it depends on which area you're talking about. So if you're talking about big, you know, big industry, I mean, I was really talking there from a startup and kind of innovation perspective, where you know, there's a lot of investment in terms of what the future of our you know, economy will really rely on. But I mean, if you were to talk about some of the strengths now, outside of that resources part, there's a huge amount around, you know, Sydney is considered really the fintech capital, and it's one of our, in terms of financial technology, is really one of our key global strengths. And likewise, say in Victoria, you'll find real massive strengths around life sciences and healthcare and med tech as well. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the overall industry strengths, that's something which is really in that evolution at the moment, I'd say, because it really is in the midst of making that transition. Not sure if you'd like to add anything further to that, Sachi, from what you're seeing.
Right.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And Kasia, what do you think? What is the fastest growing sectors in Poland? And like also, we have in Poland a lot of great specialists in some fields.
Yes, it's connected. Yes, if you have specialists, they do business in the area which they know. So we have a lot of ICT and connected with IoT startups. We have a lot of medtech startups also, and most popular last year was Industry 4.0, just like a new trend in the young entrepreneurs trend. And why we are as good in the tech side, it's because we have a lot of developers here. And as I found, we are the third country in the world after Russia and after China and Russia with the biggest amount of developers. It's more than 400,000 developers based here in Poland. What is more important also, that more than 40% of people in the middle age have higher education. So usually they are specialists, really specialists in their path of learning. So they have they are very good for R&D centers, for creative and smart industries. So a lot of people thought that Poles are innovative, yes. And we have we are based in economics. We have engineers, IT specialists, and sciences. These are four paths which we are really strong in. And what I can say more, and
I'm really excited that on Thursday, like those people from both sides will have a chance to meet each other on the one virtual platform and just talk to each other. We already have some experiences from Venture Cafe that some people met during our events. Both in Warsaw and in Sydney, and they started to do something together. And it was until now it was more like locally, because we used to organize events in the space, but now it's even globally. So I can't wait. What will happen after that event? We have also a lot of great startups from both sides, and they will take part in startup pitching session. So if you are interested in some solutions from Poland or from Australia, you can join. Startup pitching session is at 10:30 Polish time, and I guess it will be
6:30.
Correct me if I'm wrong. 6:30.
Yeah. So
in the morning.
In the
yeah,
evening.
in the evening. So the
Yes.
Sydney time components will essentially be a 5 p.m. start time with an hour and a half of the ecosystem presentation. So that's, as Ava was talking about, is both business and government leaders representing the city or representing the kind of ecosystem startup or the the different industries. We've got an investor from our side. So that's an exchange. There's City of Warsaw, City of Sydney, Startup Poland. There's Austrade from Australia. So there's various representatives on both sides really demonstrating the key makeup of our different ecosystems. And then that's 5 to 6:30 Australian time, which would be 9 till 10:30 local Polish time. And then there is 6:30 to 7 Sydney time will be our startup pitch, which is really exciting. We've got some awesome startups from Australia who'll be telling the community there, but also the broader European innovation community about what they do and showcasing the diversity of Australia's innovators and entrepreneurs. And then we've got our demo tables where they'll all be showcasing a product or service, and that's 7 till 8 Sydney time, and that would be is that 11 till 12 Warsaw? Oh no,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, I think it's too complicated with the time, so I would recommend to check the whole agenda our website, on our Venture Cafe Warsaw website or Venture Cafe Sydney website. Yeah, everywhere you can check the agenda and register for the event. And I have last question to Sachi to wrap up. What would you recommend to somebody who is planning to start a business in Australia, or maybe to expand the business to Australia? Do you have any tips how to start, where to go, and like just what to pay attention on?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there are a lot of areas you can focus on. As the first thing, I would like to say that, it's always good to do your homework. And you need to realize one thing, that is, it's going to be a long-term time commitment, and it's going to be a long-term financial commitment when you try to move into a market like this. And you need to plan to invest in your internal resources and staff to create a culture of research and development and innovation, because this is what is going to help you in the long run to create a business which is more competitive and sustainable. And as a second thing, I would like to say, you need patience and resilience, because it's a new market, right? And even if the cultures might look similar at first, there's always going to be differences, and you will understand this only after entering the market. So it's going to be an adventure. It's going to be a very exciting adventure. And as the third thing, I would say, it's good to focus on, this is something very specific. It's good to focus on localization and how to leverage from the government and the community support. Because I read, based on a research done by Nielsen, it shows that 3 in 5 Australians try to buy products that are Australian made. So it's vital to try to focus on being localized. And you're coming from a different market. It's always good to try to surround yourself with dynamic networks of startups and passionate founders, because there's a lot to learn from others, and there's a lot to benefit from being in the right network circle. And as the last and the most important thing, I would say, it's always good to invest early in good governance and tax compliance, because this is very important. And a good starting point would be to consult an Australian tax agent who can help you with the compliance and the tax structures from the beginning itself. Because the Australian government has so many benefits being offered to businesses in terms of grants and concessions. So you need to do your research right, and then only you'll be able to understand how to capitalize and to get the best benefit out of these opportunities. So those are the tips if I would like to share.
Great. I think it's really useful. And also, Kasia, you mentioned at the beginning about those centers, innovation centers all over the world, and about this good environment that you should look for when you are moving to a different country, and when you want to start something in different country. Would you like to add something to that?
I only add that if you want to go to Australia, you should ask also Sachi how to do business. So you can join Venture Cafe or call to Sachi for help. I think that you will help Sachi if someone would like to go to Australia, of course, and Nathan also. And in Poland, of course, if you want to start in Poland, just like you, Sachi, said, it's really good to go to the right network, to the network of investors, startup founders, mentors, and we are talking about the fast-growing startup circles and investment centers in Poland. And if you will find such a place, and it's really not so hard, it's in Warsaw we have 190 organization which helps startups to grow. So it's a big market. So it's the best first step. Find someone who will help you, an organization, incubator, accelerator, government program, and also we have a government special agencies for foreigners, and they learn how to establish a business in Poland. So it's a lot of points on our map when you can get help in doing business here.
And of course, we are inviting you to join Thursday gathering, Venture Capital's gathering in both countries. So if you are new in the country, in the city, on every Thursday we are organizing the largest meetup for entrepreneurs, innovators, and people who are really doing something. So from different sectors, different industries. So if you are new, it's also a great place to go. But before that, the easiest thing is to join us on Thursday for Innovation Bridge, Warsaw-Sydney. Meet our amazing guests from today here, and also more interesting people like you, and startups, entrepreneurs, some people who might be really good for cooperation or just sharing experience. So we are inviting you. Also, if you would like to participate in the program, like being host of a demo table, info table, or the session, we will also share the link in a comment to type form, and you can just fill the form and let us know that you would like to present something, because we are open to everyone. The events are free of charge, so everyone is invited. Thank you, Kasia. Thank you, Sachi, for joining us. Nathan, would you like to add something?
No, I think you summed it up perfectly. But thank you, Kasia and Sachi, as well, for being part of this and helping us to start to draw the innovation bridge to between Poland and Sydney. I think what you mentioned, Kasia, is around the different avenues and soft landing access services. We've got plenty of people who will be representing and talking about those different services in Sydney, including one of our main hubs from the Sydney Startup Hub, which is the largest concentration of startups in the state and in the country, if I'm still correct on that. So there's, there'll be plenty of opportunities to find out how to leverage both markets, and opportunities to find different collaborators, partners, maybe to hire talent as well, to tap into the diverse talent pools of each market. So just really looking forward to it, and hope everyone can join us.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Have a great day and have a nice evening.
See you on Thursday.
See you then. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.